Hello everyone, this is Dr. Supreet Kaur from Department of Commerce, University of Delhi. Today we will be continuing our series on liner shipping and trans-shipping models. So in the previous class, as we have discussed about the liner shipping and the trans-shipping models, wherein liner shippers were sort of your organized structures, right? In contrast to a trans-shipping, which is comparatively unorganized and is fragmented and unstructured in approach. Now we will be talking much more in detail about both the models of your liner shipping and the trans shipping. So when we talk about this liner shipping models, since they work on to pre-scheduled routes, on predetermined rates, right? And everything is well structured, everything is sort of your organized, right? Even the service frequency of these liners, the fleet size, the vessel size will, what will be the vessel size, what will be the ports that will be connecting, and onto what routes your these liner shippers will move, right? So everything is well organized, it is well planned, right? And there's one more thing with respect to the same is your liner conferences. Now what are these liner conferences? They are, you could say, a sort of your consortia, sort of your alliances, unassociated corporations, or you could say unincorporated corporations, right? And the purpose is what? The purpose is to fix the freight prices and to regulate the space into your ship, you could say the space capacity of the ship, so that it should not lead to collective disadvantage. Now what will happen if you are having number of companies, having number of liner, providing number of liner services onto the similar routes? There will be, greater number of competition, there will be large number of companies which will be providing your great number of services onto those routes, so that will lead to heated competition. And if there will be heated competition, then the consequence will be in terms of your fluctuating freight practices, which actually discourages the companies operating into that segment. So in order to, you could say, come on to a common platform for the purpose of your fixing the freight, for regulating the space onto a ship, there is this concept called liner conferences. And liner conferences are run with this basic objective that we do not want to, companies do not want to go into that heated competition, rather there should be very congenial environment to operate into. And if there would be such congenial environment, what will happen? Suppose, let's say there are 5 to 10,000 companies operating into that segment, right? So, or 5 to 10,000 services being operated onto those particular different, you could say, ports. So there will be, very high competition in terms of your fluctuating prices, right? Freight prices. So that is why that, chaos will not be there, that chaos should not be there either, right? So that is why these liner conferences are. These conferences, they ensure that your price is regulated. You are having a uniform price. No matter whether you pick the first company services, or B company services, or C company services, your prices would remain the same. If that thing is there, that you are having the regulating your freight prices and your regulated space capacity of the ships, it will be very smooth. It will be very smooth for all the traders to easily pick from different you could say key liner services, right? And that will also boost this healthy competition, and that would just discourage that thing wherein otherwise there could be a competitive disadvantage. So that is why these liner conferences are there, which helps in regulating the prices of your freight, which helps in regulating the space capacity of your ships. And the first very liner conference that happened in India was in 1857, way back, the UK Kolkata, your liner conference, wherein your British peninsula and various other, you could say shipping companies were a part of the same. Over the period, number of conferences, were happened so as to come up with the policies, so as to come up with such structures wherein you can regulate the, you could say, the policies with respect to the liner services. So the ones that came later on were from the Australia conference, South America, South Africa, right? And these conferences were always being held up with the entire aim of your promoting the healthy competition, right? Now, when we are saying that, due to containerization, the trade at all the major ports have increased, rather it, exponentially increased, right? So there is a need to regulate the trade routes for the same. So these liner services, they help you in doing the same. They'll tell you, these shipping services will be provided onto these particular routes connecting these and these so and so ports, and it will be operating on such and such days on such and such timings. So think about how smooth, how easy it would be for a cargo owner to, select from a fleet of your liner services the one which is appropriately according to, customized according to his date and time. He can easily pick any of the liner services. Always remember, the liner services would always be 3 to 4 times more than the number of the liner companies operating in the segment, because one company will not be providing only one service. Now there will be number of services there, because there will be much more frequency of the liners onto, different routes. So that is why the cargo owners, they'll be having great set of options to choose from, to pick and choose from, right? Now, when we are talking about these liner services, we have basically segregated it into two segments. So one is your passenger liners, another is your cargo liners. So when we are talking about passenger liners are basically for such sort of your, articles or the cargo which are quite expensive. For example, jewelry, diamonds, right? Your rare stones, rare minerals. So the quantum of which is comparatively less, right? And they are quite expensive in nature. So as the name indicates, they also, help in moving the passengers from one point to another, but along with they also provide the mail postal, your mails and your, services for moving the high and expensive goods from one point to another point. Whereas in your cargo liners are mostly used for your sort of your bulky products, which are comparatively inexpensive, which are, there they goes into bulk quantum. So if I talk about nut and bolt, right? So they comparatively are inexpensive as compared to diamonds or, other precious jewelry. So these nut and bolts, they can be carried up into a large quantum, right? So for the same, you will always be preferring the cargo liners, and as compared to the passenger liners, the prices, the freight prices for your cargo liners are comparatively less, right? So that ways we can segregate the liner services into two segments. Now when we talk about these liner shipping models, we do talk about that what is the reason behind of this exponential growth that I mentioned about the, your liner shipping models. So the first very reason is that your worldwide port development. So you have seen over the time period, and as witnessed into the last class also, wherein I shared the database for the World Bank, which indicates that India has jumped, into your liner shipping connectivity index from a, mere index value of 55 way back in 2015 to somehow, 58 in 22. So the improvement into the index cannot be solely contributed or attributed to one parameter, rather there are different parameters they're you could say key contributing towards the growth of the shipping models, and the one very prominent is your port development. So when we see port development, Government of India has also done a lot with respect to developing the ports of India, right? Whether we talk about the eastern ports of India, whether we talk about the western ports of India, so a lot has been done with respect to the port developments, and not just in India, overseas also we have seen that China, be it your Hong Kong, Singapore, they have well defined ports and well structured ports. And then too, when we talk about Dubai, Dubai is a logistical hub, as I mentioned earlier also. So Dubai is a logistical hub wherein the port development, so that port development, they have developed a number of ports. So this is one factor that we have such a robust structure, infrastructure rather, and which contributes towards the growth of the liner shipping models. Then it is your trade. You know, now there have been alliances in such that now these hub and spoke models are much popular. So hub and spoke models, as in if I want to say any company landing up into Asian markets. So Asia is a hub, right? So it will be having different spokes running into different regions, right? So let's say South Asia, wherein India is a part of the same. So through that hub and spoke model, wherein they are having the alliances, so they are better, it pushes towards the more requirement for such liner shipping models, wherein there is regionalization of the trade, and all these alliances, it helps improving the supplier networks, and that contributes towards the growth of liner shipping models. And next is your IT. So everything nowadays is digitally integrated. So when I say digitally integrated, it means that each and every operation which earlier was largely dependent upon your, you could say, manual practices, so now it has transitioned to the digital platforms. So whether we talk about right from the entry of the bills to managing the warehouses, to managing the transportation, to taking care of what will be the freight, what will be the deadweight freight will be paying, or in case we are paying any advance freight for the same, or you could say you are paying any sort of your freights onto the basis of pro rata, right? So that ways everything is so digitalized, so structured, and we are sort of having a comprehensive and integrated structure. And all these things, whether we talk about the port developments, we talk about hub and spoke model, we talk about these better robust supply networks, we talk about IT technology, everything contributes towards the growth of your liner shipping models. And why these liner shipping models are required? Because of the evolution and the proliferation in adoption of your containers, which we call the containerization. So due to widespread adoption of containers into the trade, there being a rising demand for liner shipping models, because such models are much more organized, well structured, and sort of promotes a healthy you could say key atmosphere for you could say key easy facilitating or flow of your trade, right? Now when we liner shipping models, we are talking about the same, and there could be different parameters when we are talking about the deciding upon the freight of such you could say key with the liner shipping, whatever you could say your service company you are selecting upon. So freight can also have different segregation. There can be advanced freight, there can be lump sum freight, deadweight freight, and pro rata freight. So what do we mean by all these freights? So advanced freight when you are saying that you have given the entire amount of your, whatever freight it is applicable in advance, right? Let's suppose you have taken your sort of your voyage charter, so you are making the payments in advance, so that will be termed up as your advance freight. Lump sum, when you are giving a consolidated amount instead of segregating it into different, sections, you are giving a lump sum amount for the freight. And dead freight is your basically wherein you could say that you are carrying the cargo which is less than the container load capacity of the vessel. So that is your dead weight. So dead weight freight is always the freight which it means that you are not efficiently utilizing the space onto the ship. आपका लेट सपोज अगर कितने टन्स का आपका शिप है, आपने पूरा यूटिलाइज नहीं करा, आपने उसको लेट से 80% यूटिलाइज करा, सो 20% का यू आर पेइंग इन एक्स्ट्रा, राइट? Similarly, pro rata basis पे you can also pay that how much, tonnage basis per the person can also pay for the freight. So that ways you can see that there could be different types. So these being the broader heads कि आपके कितने, किस टाइप के आपकी freight rates हो सकते हैं. Further on, ये freight rates किन factors पे depend करता है, ये हमने last class में भी discuss करा था, wherein we talked about whether it's either onto the volume is one parameter onto which you decide the your freight charges, distance, the weight of your cargo that you are carrying up, the type of your cargo, whether it is a dry cargo, whether it is a liquid one, slurry into nature, and based on to the same your freight rates will be determined. Then what are the fixed charges, because in case of your pipelines there are heavy freight charges, right? So similarly, what are your fixed charges, onto the same you will be deciding upon आपका freight rate क्या है. और fixed charges की हम depend करते हैं कि किस type का हमारा vessel है, उसके basis पे हम ये decide करते हैं कि हमारे charges कितने होंगे. टॉल चार्जेस कितने पड़ रहे हैं, इंश्योरेंस कितना है, जिसको हम CIFP टर्मिनोलॉजी को यूज़ करते हैं, सो कॉस्ट, इंश्योरेंस एंड फ्रेट. सो ऑल दीज पैरामीटर्स डिटरमिन योर फ्रेट रेट्स. आपने डायनामिक प्राइसिंग मॉडल लिया है या फिर आपका मोड ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्टेशन क्या है, आपने किस टाइप की पैकेजिंग जो है वो आपने यूज़ करी है, कैसा लेबलिंग है, और seasonal impact कितना है. Then you can also talk about the pestle analysis, that what is the political, economic, social, technological, environment and legal framework. So depending on to the same, you also determine the freight rates. For example, if they bring a global outrage, then there will be a great impact onto the freight rates. So accordingly, your freight rates will be determined. You will keep into point not just one parameter but different parameters, because they have a greater role in deciding or determining the freight rates, right? Now when we talk about all these freight rate models or liner shipping models we are talking about, we have to very clear onto this thing that there is a great difference between your liner shipping models and your tramp shipping models. So liner shipping models, as discussed on and on, that they are well structured, they are well planned, organized. So they have a different sort of your functioning, wherein each and every activity will be specified, that from which ports the service company will be loading the cargo, where it will be unloaded, what will be the point of destination, what all ports will be connecting, and what will be the route wherein it will be running upon. Because we always see that liner shipping services are such which runs onto the predetermined your routes and at the pre-scheduled timings. So since they are the scheduled shipping services which run at the fixed frequency on your predetermined routes, so that is why they are very organized, and they'll always ensure all sort of your utilities, whether we talk about the form, time, place, person. So all sorts of your utility is being ensured. using your liner shipping models, right? Next in line is your tram shipping models. So when we say that the ships that do not follow any fixed schedule or route are known as the tram services. And these tram services are comparatively unstructured, they are loose, they carry such cargo which is homogeneous into nature, and they accept the cargo which is bulk cargo, right? And one more thing about these tram shipping models is that since they do not follow any fixed schedule or the route, so they can collect the cargo, load the cargo from more than one or two ports. For example, if it is destined from port A in India to a port D in, let's say, California, so accordingly it will be, since it is very unstructured and loose, your tram service shipping models, so it may collect the cargo from some intermediary ports that will be coming onto the way. So it will cargo accept the cargo from more than one or two ports, right? So that ways it is quite fragmented into the approach, and it comparatively the goods which are very homogeneous into nature, it will be carrying the same. And then too, the articles are cheap as in, since you are sending a homogeneous one, you are loading the cargo in bulk, so it comparatively is much cheaper, and the goods are not that much fragile or not high worth value in nature. So that means this is a very, if you have to define it out, a tram shipping model, you can simply say that they are not having a fixed schedule, they do not run onto the fixed lines, and they are comparatively very unstructured, fragmented into approach, right? And they are at times also been considered as the unorganized and unstable, because what happens out, since obviously they are having comparatively the lower freight rates, because the articles are such which are homogeneous in nature, the goods are not high end, the sort of mechanism is also very unorganized. So if we talk about the freight rates that the clients will be paying off, that is also comparatively much lower. So information now, if we talk about that, with respect to the information of such vessels, how they will be sailing, how a person will come to know about that onto what routes it will be operating, when it will be operating, because it is very unstructured and unorganized into approach. So the information with respect to the same is generally there onto the website of the shipping company. They'll mention upon that these are the rates that are applicable based onto the demand and the supply forces, and these are the dates when it will be moving up. The details with respect to the you could say the booking link for the same will also be published. So that ways you could say up that these tram shipping models, they are very unstructured and unorganized into its functioning, right? And when we are talking about these tram shipping model, and you would see at times that at one fine day it is suddenly showing up on the shipping timetable. Maybe sometimes the cargo is not enough to run onto a schedule. So in such cases, if there being a shipping space that is available, the company would do what? It will float it onto the website, it will show the timetable, and it will show you that this much space is available, and in that way it can accept the cargo from the other customers also for the shipment to different ports, right? So this is about the basics regards to your tram shipping models. There's a lot more about the same, right? And we'll be covering in bits and pieces about your both liner and tram shipping models in the coming segments. So thank you for the day.